Back. I'm Cyndi, and today I am bringing you another um, local author. Today I am sharing with you J. Richard McLaughlin and his book, When Growing Up Was Mandatory. This is a collection of stories that he has written, and many of these were published, if not published, in the local Greenbrier Beacon in his neighborhood. This book was copyrighted in 2020. The full title is When Growing Up Was Mandatory by J. Richard McLaughlin, subtitled The Story of a Mid 20th Century Boy. By himself, I think. He doesn't have an imprint on here. I really think he just published it. I think he just put it on Amazon and in Kindle and uploaded it. Yeah, it looks that way. So this is just entirely self-published. It's pretty good. It's actually pretty good. I like the I like the cover. It's very simple. It looks like it looks very much like him. And there is his photo on the back. Okay, his author picture. It is um The back matter says it is the joys and trials of being a kid, Richard's story of laughter, drama, and growth as he emerges from infancy to teen to the threshold of adulthood. And he writes a whole collection of apparently short stories throughout this, beginning with his birth to a minister and his wife. And then he writes about different events that happened throughout his life. Um, and he's been an ardent storyteller for all of his life. He told his stories to his children and the groups that they belong to, and pretty well anyone else that wishes to hear those stories. And so he's been a regular contributor to the Greenbrier Beacon. He is a very local author. He lives right here in Waretown. Um, this is his first book, and he does hope to have additional books in the future. Some of them are in the works. He served in the Air Force during the Cuban Missile Crisis and in the Vietnam War. He writes about growing up in the Depression era in post World War II America. In this book, he writes about being a miracle baby. He writes about um, events that happened. Uh, he writes about learning to deal with challenging people. Talks about the day he met his wife, what that was like, and the titles are very cute. It was what he called "Love at First Chat," which is about him meeting his wife. And I thought that was very appropriate for this era that we live in, when we're always talking about chatting, and this is a chat box, or it's a chatting platform. So for him to actually use that is really quite brilliant. Um, he writes about being um, about two and a half. Naturally, this isn't really his memory, but what he remembers about the event that I'm going to share here is he was about two and a half around the time of the bombing of Pearl Harbor. What he remembers is that his dad went out to serve as an air raid warden. Remember that his father was a preacher. So he also writes about things like growing up listening to radio stories, much the way we sit in our living rooms watching television, and so much more. And one of the things that I wanted to share with you, which I'm going to read right out of the book, is among his acknowledgments, he acknowledges, of course, his wife, his children, who helped him, some friends. He has one friend in particular who encouraged him to write for the Beacon. And then he says this: "Last but most of all, I thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ and my generous God for furnishing me the gift of long-term memory and granting me the perseverance to overcome the dual heart handicaps of hearing impairment and diminishing eyesight, to continue the joy of writing." This is such an encouraging statement from a very encouraging man. Yet he grew up in simpler times and yet harder times, and he tells his stories well, and he's immediately engaging. I give it 5 stars and hope he writes more. Until next time.